Hello ACS fam, welcome to another session of Current Affairs. And today in this session, we shall talk about a very beautiful landmass. Yes, we are going to talk about Antarctica, something that has recently popped up, recently came in news and which will be very important topic for your examination perspective as well. Okay, so in this session, we will talk a lot about the Antarctica regarding the bill, Indian Antarctic bill, regarding some research stations of Antarctica, as well as treaty, the Antarctic Treaty that is present. So stay tuned with us to know more about. Then let's start with today's current affairs. Okay, the first and foremost, very important topic regarding the Indian Arctic program. Indian Arctic program, why it is important? It's important because of the bill. I hope you have heard about the Indian Antarctic Bill 2022 since it's coming in the news, and for that purpose, we will also consider about the Indian Antarctic program. Every one of us know regarding the Antarctica, right? That huge mass, huge sheet of land which is completely covered with ice, entirely covered with ice. In that land, there are some kind of programs. Different nations are undergoing different kind of research and experiments, because of which different types of programs have pop up. Similarly, if you say India is also not excluded, India has also thought of performing similar kind of research and experiments in the Antarctica because of its specialty. What is its specialty? The specialty is, of course, the climate, the landmass. All these are the specialty of Antarctica. So you can see here, it's a program which has been under the control of National Center for Polar and Oceanic Research. Polar and Oceanic Research, minded under the Ministry of Earth Sciences, Government of India, right? This program, it was started, it initiated long back in 1981, and you need to remember the fact that in 1981 it was for the very first time that the Indian, as an Indian, some people thought of moving towards Antarctica, for looking into Antarctica. What is Antarctica? How is Antarctica? Because Indians before that were only learning that it's a huge sheet of land covered with ice, but they practically never ever seen Antarctica, and this was the region for which, for different purposes, they had expeded towards Antarctica, and this is how the first Indian Antarctic program came up. And you can see under this program, as I have said, research is done. You can see what kind of research are done: atmospheric, biological, art, research related to the atmosphere, research related to some of the biological entities, the research related to the earth, isn't it? Research, some research of chemicals as well as medical sciences have been studied by our country in the Antarctica, right? Indian Antarctic program have been set up. Of course, there should be some research centers, isn't it? The research centers of Indian Antarctic program are very important. One is Dakshin Gangotri. I think you must have heard about Dakshin Gangotri, right? Then we have Maitri, then we have Bharati. These three are the research centers for the Indian Antarctic program. But you need to remember one thing, that out of this three today, Dakshin Gangotri is non-functioning, it's non-operational, it does not work today. That means, what do we have today as research centers? We have with us, one is Maitri and another is Bharati, right? These are the two operational research centers. Now the question is, why this has happened, why Dakshin Gangotri is no more a research center. Dakshin Gangotri, for the very first time, it was the first research center that was set up, but why it's not working today? Dakshin Gangotri was built in the East Antarctica part. Okay, remember one thing, that it was built in the East Antarctica part, and what happened in that region? The effects of global warming are very much common. Okay, effects of global warming are common as global temperature are increasing. We all know every year we are experiencing almost a degree rise in temperature. I hope you all are aware of this fact, right? And as there is a degree, almost if there is a degree rise in the global temperature, if people are feeling that much of heat, what will happen? Of course, some of the places like the tropical region, those hotter places will keep on moving into, it will become more and more hot. And on the other hand, if you see the colder climatic region, in those regions, automatically what can happen? Automatically there will be melting down of the glaciers, melting down of the ice sheets, right? This is what has happened towards the Dakshin Gangotri center, as ice caps and everything, they are melting down at a faster rate. Therefore, we have made it non-operational. This is important. This is an important point. And as the ice caps and ice sheets are melting in Antarctica, this is another reason for which it is opening up a way for most of the other countries to perform different kinds of tasks. Imagine, Antarctica is a place where human habitat is not at all possible. No people permanently can settle down there, right? Because of its environmental conditions. But as ice cap starts melting, that means, what does it mean? It means that it is going towards a favorable condition for the human to settle down there. And this is why we have come across different people. Human, you all know, right? Humans are very much greedy. It's not only India, but different other countries are now thinking of doing their business in Antarctica, right? And because of many, many reasons, Antarctica has been in news. Antarctica has been a very popular topic for study. And this is why this entire topic for current affairs also holds its importance. Okay. Next, coming to the, of course, to the bill for the context. You can see the bill. What is the main aim of the bill? The main aim of the bill is that this bill will try to regulate the visits and activities to the Antarctica. Yes, and very important, whatever research work is being done, if any kind of violations are done by any Indians, of course, it will, of course, since we are talking about the Indian Antarctic bill, so of course we will deal with the things that are done by the Indians. Any kind of problems, any kind of violations done by Indians, then what can happen? It can lead into penalties. Penal provision means it can lead into penalties, some kind of fine, or some maybe some kind of tax imposition, jail imposition, this kind of different kind of penalties could be imposed. Yes, secondly, if you see, this is a bill as of now. If this bill becomes a law, I hope you know how a bill becomes a law. Am I right? Do you know how a bill becomes a law? Right? Yes, you all have studied in polity. So I'm not going to talk about it. As this bill becomes a law, you can see private tours and private expeditions to Antarctica will be completely prohibited without any kind of permissions or written authorization by the country, by the member country. As of now, if someone, suppose you or suppose me, if we want to do a private tour, suppose yes, we are there is some very curious mindset. Have, there are some people who are having this curious mindset, right? So maybe some of you might want to go to Antarctica. Your wishes, I don't know for how many days your wishes will be remaining, because if this bill becomes law, your private tour, if you are not doing any research, if you are not selected for research in Antarctica, your aim, your dream of moving into Antarctica will get finished, will get diminished, right? So these kind of things have been clearly mentioned in the Indian Antarctic Deal. Then, inspection of a vessel. Yes, those big naval ships. Yes, those you can also call it as vessels. Those ships, big naval ships will be inspected. There will be frequent checking of different research facilities. Different kinds of things will be done, and very important, this bill, in the draft of this bill, another provision has been made regarding the creation of a fund. Yes, and the name of the fund is Antarctic Fund. And what is the importance? What is the purpose of this Antarctic Fund? The main purpose of this Antarctic Fund is to collect money for the protection of the Antarctic environment. Very important, right? You can see Antarctica is a place which is very much vulnerable. If you see how, I don't know how many of you remembered, but I hope at least you know the fact that even the hole in the ozone, it is also felt in the polar region, in the Antarctica. Do you remember? Yes. Whatever humans are doing, whatever negative things humans are doing in the rest of the world, the impact is moving towards Antarctica. The impact is moving towards the North Polar region of Arctic. Yes, those regions are very much vulnerable. So as we are thinking of doing some research work, definitely we should not do it in a way that it will create problem for the Antarctic environment. And this is why whenever we are doing any kind of research work, of course, some kind of minimal problems will be there for the environment. And in order to man this problem, in order to mitigate this problem, some amount of fund is required. I told you one day, everything requires money, isn't it? Either for adaptation, either for mitigation, either for planning, either for management, whatever you do, whatever you do, this world cannot survive without money. If you think it from today's context, isn't it? Even if you are harming the environment, this could, at least you can reverse it back towards, not come, you cannot of course completely reverse, but you can think of reversing towards some point, even if you have funds. So this is why funds or money, they are very important. So you can see it establishes a committee on Antarctic governance and environmental protection. And what is the purpose of a committee? The purpose of a committee is that in a committee, we all know what is a committee. Different kinds of members will be present. Some experts will be present who will give some expert advice, right? So based on based on the advices of this committee, the research works or the research operations will be continuing. Now, further about this bill, if you see, prohibition, what kind of things, as we are talking about the protection of the environment, right? This bill also prohibits some of the things. What does it prohibit? Let us have a look. First and foremost, mining. It prohibits mining. Okay, remember, it prohibits mining, because whenever you are performing mining, there could be different kinds of problems. Maybe some toxic metals or some heavy toxic metals which are present deep under the ground could even come up. right? And whenever you are mining some of the things, those of course, you are trying to find out some important minerals or important things whenever you are mining. But whenever you are mining, you will not get in a purified form, isn't it? You will never get anything in a purified form. There will be some impurities present with it, and then there will be the raw thing that you will actually require. There will be, the case will be like this. If you see, when you are mining, your valuable thing will be, if this is a valuable thing, this will be of very less content, and the rest of the things which are not at all valuable for you, those are the impurities that will be present. Now as you were performing the mining, yes, as you extract the valuable thing out of the entire ore, the impurities will be left behind, which could create problem for the environment. This is why mining is prohibited. Point number one. Point number two, dredging. Dredging means it's a kind of digging activity. Okay, dredging or digging activity for different kind of purposes. Then you can see nuclear testing, very, very important. Nuclear testing, we all know the effects of nuclear weapons, nuclear bombs, or nuclear things that can harm, that can affect the environment as well as the people, right? So nuclear testing, of course. Uranium plays a very major role. Thorium plays a very major role. Plutonium plays a very major role. Radium plays a very major role. If you remember about the nuclear technology, do you remember about the nuclear technology? Yes. So out of them, uranium and thorium are having comparatively higher capacity, right? So nuclear, whenever, what is a nuclear testing? Before launching any kind of things, of course, testing is done, and all these nuclear activities can create lots and lots of problems to the environment, right? So this kind of things are prohibited. And finally, banning of persons. See, mind it, banning of person, banning of vessels, those ships, as well as aircraft. What kind of person, what kind of vessels, or what kind of aircrafts will be banned? If those things are on the work of the waste disposal, if they are performing any kind of disposal of waste into Antarctica, those vehicles, including a person, will be banned. There could be some mind that, yes, let me say, suppose India is getting so much polluted, so much of waste are there, let me take all this waste from India to Antarctica and dump it down there. If anyone is having this mindset, all these things are under prohibition. All these entire things are prohibited. So this is why disposal of waste, as you can see, all this, not only this, entire mining, dredging, nuclear testing, waste disposal, since they're prohibited, that means, I hope you remember, anything that is prohibited, as this bill will become an act, if any person is performing these kind of tasks, what will happen? They will have to face penalties, right? They will have to face penalties. Next, moving on to another thing that is related to this entire topic, you can see about the Antarctic Treaty, right? This Antarctic Treaty is, you can see it came into force on 23rd of June in 1961. Treaty, we all know, right? Treaty is a kind of, some kind of discussion and agreement, yes? And some of the 12 countries, they have agreed to this treaty. Okay, they have agreed to this treaty for performing their task in the Antarctica for their science and research purpose. And you can see this treaty, it mainly covers the south of 60 degree latitude. So remember this treaty. And now, what are the objectives of this treaty? As we know, the main objective is of the treaty is to demilitarize Antarctica. See, we all are looking into nowadays what is the hottest topic you can say? Russian-Ukraine war, isn't it? So whatever, if there are military, if there is any chance of war, that means there will be destruction. This is another reason for which the objective of this particular treaty is to create a military free zone. Yes, whenever there is military, that means they will not only think of destruction using conventional weapons, but also they will perform the nuclear test. They will also try to utilize the nuclear weapons, and this is the importance of this Antarctic Treaty. Along with that, disposal of radioactive waste are also prohibited. So, in a nutshell, you can see the Antarctic Treaty talks about only peaceful expeditions towards Antarctica. Peaceful expeditions means basically for research and experiments. Only those things are allowed in the Antarctica. Okay, and whoever are the member countries who have ratified to this treaty, this member countries annually they held a meeting. Okay, in that meeting they undergo some kind of negotiations, different kind of advices are being given, different kind of discussions, different kind of talks are being held, and finally they provide the collectively, you can see, they form an Antarctic treaty system in which some kind of rules pop up. Yes, whenever there are some kind of discussions every year, see, every year if a meeting is being held, different kinds of problems will be addressed. Based on the address based on the problems that are being addressed, some kind of suggestions will come up, and those suggestions could also become some rule of this entire treaty. Yes, this is all about the Antarctica, the Antarctic Bill, Indian Research Program, and the Antarctic Treaty.